I'm VJ Hamilton and welcome to the Autoimmune Reset, the place for you to learn how to thrive with autoimmune disease and feel empowered to take steps to transform your health to feel better than ever. You can start making changes today to improve your health. So with every episode, my mission is to share with you simple ways to up-level your diet and lifestyle with key learnings from my own journey reversing autoimmune disease and inspirational stories from those who have reset their autoimmune symptoms and are now thriving in life. I suffered from autoimmune disease for over 25 years and now I live symptom-free, and I wish the same for you as well. So thank you for being here and sharing this time with me. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to this Friday 5 episode of the Autoimmune Reset podcast. I'm your host VJ Hamilton. I'm a nutritionist, scientist, expert in autoimmune disease. And today we're going to be talking about 5 signs your healthy routine might be working against you. Because if you have ever felt like you're doing everything right for your health, but you're not feeling any better, then this episode is for you, because you might be eating extremely well, you might be exercising, you might be taking your supplements, you might have cut out certain foods that you feel are reactive, you might be trying to get those 8 hours sleep and managing your stress and meditating and getting your steps in. There's so many things that we can be doing, and somehow being healthy then can become another full-time job. And I see this all the time in my clinic. In fact, the people who come to me with chronic or autoimmune symptoms are often some of the most health-conscious people I know. They've already done all the research. They're eating a clean diet. They've read the books. They've listened to the podcasts. And, they're very well informed. And they've tried different diets and bought the supplements. Yet they're still not feeling that great. And that's why they come to me. When I'm working with clients like that, we really need to kind of dig deeper of what is contributing to these symptoms. Because one of the things I've learned both through my own health and through working with clients is that something can be considered healthy and still not be healthy for you, or perhaps more importantly, not healthy for you right now. And I think we've slightly lost sight of that. We're consuming more health information than ever before. We all have access to this information. There's ChatGPT now, there's AI, there's Google, there's so many ways we can get information, and social media has many influencers telling us what we should and shouldn't be eating. But we're becoming less connected to our own bodies as a result of this, and actually listening to our bodies and understanding what they're telling us is one of the best skills that you can have when it comes to your health. So here are 5 signs that your healthy routine might actually be working against you. And the first is that your diet is getting healthier, but it's actually getting smaller as well. And this is probably one of the biggest patterns I see, because someone starts experiencing symptoms, they might remove gluten and that helps a little. Then they read an article about dairy, so the dairy goes as well, then limiting sugar and perhaps limiting things like nightshades. And they might then hear about histamines and oxalates. I mean, there's so many reactive foods out there and they all affect us in different ways. And suddenly you are there and you're standing in the supermarket and just thinking, what on earth can I actually eat? Now, therapeutic diets absolutely have their place. I use dietary interventions with clients all the time, but I think there's an important distinction between temporarily removing something because we have a reason to suspect it's contributing to our symptoms, and continually removing foods because we're reacting to more and more things. When somebody tells me, I used to be able to eat everything and now I react to everything, I'm interested in why that's happening, because the food may not actually be the root of the problem. Perhaps digestion isn't working particularly well. Perhaps there's dysbiosis going on in the gut, which is where we have a buildup of bacteria and imbalance in bacteria in our gut. Perhaps the gut environment has changed. Perhaps we're dealing with histamine issues, inflammation, or just an impaired digestive function. And this is one of the situations where gut testing can sometimes be really helpful, because rather than guessing, maybe I should remove this, maybe I should take a probiotic, we can actually look at what's happening within the gut and use that information to help personalize what we do next. I'll put some information about the type of gut testing I use in the show notes if you'd like to explore that further, because it can really help, especially if you found that you're reacting to more foods and having to take out more foods. But ultimately, the aim isn't to have you eating 6 foods perfectly. The aim is to help you build enough resilience that the world can become bigger again and you can eat more foods again. The next is you're exercising more but feeling worse. And exercise is one of the best things we can do for our long-term health. It's something that I've stayed consistent with since I was about 18, even when I had post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome. But there is a sweet spot, and the sweet spot is different for everybody. It's also different for the same person at different points in their life. And I know when I had chronic fatigue syndrome, I could cope with a couple of Pilates sessions a week. And now I can do a lot more because I have reversed my symptoms and I have built up my health over time. And there have certainly been periods where even now, I know that I shouldn't really push the exercise, especially when I'm ill or if I feel like my body is aching, or I might have a lot of stress at the moment, and that will just add more stress to my body. And I think that's an important distinction, because if you exercise and afterwards you feel stronger, you might feel more energized, you sleep well, you recover well, that's brilliant. But if you exercise and spend the rest of the day exhausted, which I remember doing when I was working in corporates, I would go to an exercise class in the morning and I would feel so drained for it. I couldn't wait to get that cup of coffee, and used to get a big pot of porridge and with nut butter, and I was just fueling myself to get through the day because I just felt so depleted after the exercise. If it makes your sleep worse, or if your symptoms flare, or if you're still trying to recover 2 days later, your body is giving you information. It doesn't necessarily mean exercise is bad for you. It may simply mean you've gone beyond your current sweet spot at the moment. And I actually think this is one of the reasons I personally still love Pilates. I'm still building strength, I'm still moving, I'm challenging my body, but I can adjust the intensity depending on what my body needs that day. Sometimes I want a really challenging class, and other days I just need something a bit more restorative, and that's why I love Pilates Reformer. And as you probably know if you've been listening to this podcast, I did train as a Pilates instructor as part of getting healthy again. And it brings me so much joy. And I just love that you can adapt the different routines that you can do with it as well. And I think we need to become better at recognizing that distinction, because the aim isn't to do the hardest workout you can. It's to find a level of challenge your body can adapt to and recover from. And then as your resilience increases, that sweet spot can move. And I know it can be frustrating, but honestly, it can make a huge difference. The next is your stress management routine is actually stressing you out. And this is one which makes me laugh, because I think wellness culture has managed to make even relaxation competitive. Like, you need to meditate, you need to journal, you need to do breath work, you need to get that morning sunlight. I mean, some of the things I will recommend to my clients, but it's the way that we incorporate these into our day. There's vagal tone exercises. We need to get our steps in. We need to go outside in nature, have the perfect bedtime routine. And then suddenly it's 9 p.m. and you're thinking, gosh, I haven't meditated today. We've somehow managed to make stress management stressful. And I think we're missing something really important here, because stress management doesn't only mean meditation. It can mean joy. It can mean having dinner with somebody you love. It can mean walking your dog. It can mean cooking. It can mean gardening. It can mean going to a Pilates class that you enjoy. It can mean sitting in the sunshine, laughing with your friends, listening to your favorite song, doing something creative. Those things count. In fact, I think we've become so focused on managing stress that we've forgotten to ask, what actually makes you feel good. And I also love finding ways to support the nervous system that can simply be woven into your day rather than becoming another job. And that's one of the reasons I love using my Sonar device. It connects to my phone, it's easy to use, and I can use it for around 15 minutes while I'm doing something else, or you can sit and relax doing it as well, which I would recommend. But obviously if you have a lot on that day, then you can use it in different ways. And I'm not having to carve out another hour out of my day to work on my health. And that's increasingly how I think about sustainable health. How can we make it easier to live with? Because the best stress management strategy is the one that actually fits into your life. Next is you're buying the latest health trend because somebody told you it was good for you. I see this all the time, and actually a friend of mine did this recently. There's absolutely nothing wrong with her gut. She doesn't have any digestive symptoms, and she bought herself some probiotics. And I said, "What are you taking those for?" And essentially the answer was, I thought probiotics were good for you. And this is such a perfect example of what we've started doing with our health. We hear probiotics are good for your health, therefore I should take probiotics. But that's not necessarily how it works. There are lots of different strains of bacteria, there are different products which do different things. And depending on what's happening with somebody's gut, adding bacteria indiscriminately isn't necessarily helpful, and for some people can potentially aggravate symptoms. The same thing with supplements. If a longevity supplement starts trending and somebody talks about berberine or creatine or NAD or a particular detox product, and suddenly everybody thinks they need it. I understand why we do this. We all want one thing that's going to make us feel better. I certainly have been there. I still try things out today, and we're all searching for something that's going to give us more energy or protect our future health. But before buying something because you've heard it's good for you, ask, what am I actually trying to achieve by taking this? And do I need it? Is there evidence that I need it? And how will I know whether it's helping me? Because more supplements don't necessarily equal better health. And sometimes adding things you don't need can cause more problems than it solves. And lastly, you've stopped listening to your body. And I think this is really what all 5 of these points come down to. We have access to an extraordinary amount of health information, but sometimes the more information we consume, the further away we get from ourselves. Someone tells us fasting is healthy, so we fast even though we're shaky and exhausted by 10 a.m. Someone tells us fermented foods are fantastic for the microbiome, so we eat them every day, even though we're bloated and itchy afterwards. Someone tells us HIIT is important for longevity, so we force ourselves through it, despite needing to recover for 2 days afterwards. The advice, but we're ignoring the response, and your response matters. Your energy matters, your digestion matters, your sleep matters, your skin matters, your mood matters. How you recover from exercise matters. How you feel after eating something matters. Not because every tiny symptom means something is terribly wrong, but because over time, patterns tell us things. I think one of the most valuable things you can do for your health is start reconnecting with your body. How do I actually feel when I wake up? What happens to my energy after I eat? What happens when I'm under more stress? Do I feel better or worse after exercise? What happens to my symptoms when I haven't slept? What makes me feel genuinely good? Because when you start noticing patterns, you can make decisions based not just on what the latest health expert says, but on the information your own body is giving you. And that's where health starts becoming truly personalised. So if you feel like you're doing everything right and still don't feel right, I don't necessarily want you to try harder. And I definitely don't want you to add another 15 things to your morning routine. Maybe start with a different question. Is what I'm doing helping me? Because ultimately, I don't think health becomes your full-time job. The whole reason we're doing any of this is so that we can have the energy and resilience to actually live our lives. So perhaps this week, rather than adding another healthy habit, look at the ones you already have. Notice how your body responds. Keep what genuinely supports you and question what doesn't, and find ways to make looking after yourself feel like part of your life rather than something that takes over your life. And this is what I had to learn over time. I just realized that certain things weren't going to stick. And it was the things that I incorporated into my life that I enjoyed doing, that I looked forward to doing, the food that I enjoyed eating. And that's the first step. And yeah, there are things that aren't good for your health that you might enjoy eating or you might enjoy doing. And I understand that. And those are the things that over time, because we end up doing more of the things we enjoy that are healthy, it can almost overcrowd those things in your life. And that's a much better way to be working on this rather than just seeing things as good and bad. And I'll put details about the gut testing that I mentioned and also the Sona device I personally use if you'd like to have a look. And if this resonated with you, subscribe or follow the podcast, because I'm going to be talking much more about how to understand the signals your body is giving you on the podcast and how we can use those clues to make health far more personal for ourselves. If you have any questions about today's episode, feel free to pop over to my Instagram account at the Autoimmunity Nutritionist. If not, have a fantastic weekend and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Thank you very much for joining me today on the Autoimmune Reset. I really hope you enjoyed the discussion, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And if you liked it, I would hugely appreciate a review on iTunes, as it helps me understand what you like about the podcast and to help share the information with more people. I'm excited to speak to you next time, and remember, you have the power to take the reins on your health. So keep the faith and celebrate the small wins. Until next time.